In this week's episode, we're talking all about peaking for competition. So what's going on, guys? Sean Don here. Hope your week has been going great for you. So championship season is here, and the next few weekends of meets are huge for most of you guys. Whether it is a high school state meet, a college conference meet, or NCAA nationals, whatever it is. These are the meets that I'm sure you guys have been looking forward to all year long. The meets that your coaches plan training for in hopes that you can score some points, set some PRs, and win some medals. All the championship hype has me inspired to make this video for you guys, explaining the basics of peaking and giving you guys a general layout of what I do to peak. And if you're wondering why I keep saying peak with the air quotes, it's because it's not necessarily a true peaking method, I guess, but rather just some basic concepts of training and adaptation thoughtfully implemented. So story time. When I was a freshman at the University of Mount Union back in 2011, I had the opportunity to work with 2012 Olympian and Mount Union alumni Justin Rohde, a 21-meter shot putter, via online coaching. At the time, he was working with legendary throws coach Anatoly Bondarchuk. Rohde had been writing my programs with the very same concepts that Bondarchuk was using to write his programs. So through secondhand experience, I got to experience Bondarchuk's complex periodization model. I had a chance to truly experience what a peak was, or as Rohde would more formally refer to it, sports form. I believe in one of Bondarchuk's books out there, he says something along the lines of, attainment of sports form can be accompanied by an increase in performance of nearly 8 to 10% from the start of a program. In my experience, this was true. Reaching sports form and allowing the body to truly adapt was an experience like nothing else. On these days, I'd fucking feel like Superman. Timing, coordination, rhythm, strength, speed, all of it came together, and if I handled it properly, then I was bound to set a PR. The only problem, though, was over time the system became less reliable. As my body adapted and changed over the 2 years that I followed this Bondarchuk system, so did my body's response to training. What was once a foolproof system to set a PR once every few weeks became more of a hit or miss. When I'd get to competition, I'd either hit that sports form and feel like Superman, or I'd feel flat and unenergetic and just totally miss it altogether. Eventually, I made the tough decision to start training hammer as my primary event. And with that, I began writing my own training, where I began to devise my own peaking method. After I started writing my own programming, I had a change in mindset. I thought to myself, I could risk a hit or miss peaking program like I'd previously experienced, or I could just get myself to feel relatively good in hopes of throwing at or near my PR. After all, in most cases, if you perform at or near PR at a championship meet, that'll be good enough to accomplish what you're after. Over the next 2 years of programming for myself, I accidentally devised a plan that manufactured a sports form type feeling for me at just the right time and on multiple occasions too. During that 2-year stint, from sophomore year outdoors to senior year indoors, I PR'd in weight or hammer at every national championship meet that I went to, with those PRs averaging at almost half a meter in weight and over 4 meters in hammer. I'd found a relatively reliable peaking system almost entirely by chance. In fact, it helped me set a surprising season's best at this year's U.S. Indoor Champs with a throw of 23.46 in the weight throw after barely any training. End story time. Now, the point of this story is not to discredit Rohde or Bondarchuk or that whole system, but rather to praise it. Both Rohde and Bondarchuk are terrific coaches, and like I said, I saw incredible gains with that style of programming. It completely changed who I was as an athlete. It helped me learn what it takes to achieve sports form, showed me what a true peak felt like, and helped me understand my body on an entirely different level. A combination of those things was what I think got me hooked on throwing. Much like I say, triphasic training and Cal Dietz changed the course of my career, so did Rohde and Bondarchuk, I guess. But anywho, back to my peaking method. If I didn't make it clear the first few times I had used my peaking method, it was really just me winging it and hoping that it worked. And for the most part, it did. At this time, I had pretty much no idea what I was doing. While yes, I had what I learned from Rohde's training and was also studying exercise science and had done a few internships in strength and conditioning, if you would have asked me the theory behind it, I would have had no idea what to tell you. I didn't truly understand the theory behind why my peaking program worked until I had taken a course titled Training Theory at the University of Minnesota while studying for my graduate degree. That course completely changed the way that I looked at strength conditioning and programming for sports. We learned a lot of simple concepts regarding periodization, workout structure, and exercise selection that I feel are overlooked by the majority of sport coaches, yet are by far some of the most important things you must understand when programming effectively for athletes. To first understand how to peak an athlete, we must understand one of the most foundational concepts in exercise science, Hans Selye's general adaptation syndrome. Basically, stress causes adaptation. In our case, as athletes, the physical stress we exert on our bodies in the form of training causes the positive adaptations, usually, in performance that we are looking for. Adaptation is the key to improving performance. Without stress, there is no adaptation, and Selye's model provides important rationale for how stress is handled and how adaptations are made through sport training. Selye's model has 3 key stages. Number 1, the alarm phase. Number 2, the resistance phase, and number 3, the exhaustion phase, all of which are pertinent to planning training effectively. The alarm phase is the initial response of a stressor, or in our case, an individual training session. When workloads are high enough, the athlete's fight or flight response, the sympathetic nervous system, is activated, creating a catabolic effect. The alarm phase is generally characterized by reduced performance as a result of accumulated fatigue, soreness, and a reduction in energy stores. The alarm phase is what initiates the adaptive response. Following the alarm phase, if stressors are applied appropriately, comes the resistance phase. The body attempts to return to homeostasis, and the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, and an anabolic response is signaled. At the very least, performance will return to baseline, or hopefully adaptation will occur, and performance will be elevated to new, higher levels, which is called supercompensation. This is the reaction we should hope for when we're trying to peak and really train in general, honestly. If training stress is excessive, however, the exhaustion phase takes place. This is often referred to as overtraining, which is associated with an array of homeostatic problems, leading to chronically decreased sport performance. Exhaustion or overtraining can take weeks or months to recover from, but generally it's not a problem so long as you take a planned deload every 3 to 4 weeks to allow the body to recover. Just some food for thought. So what does this all mean for peaking? Basically, we want to plan our athletes' training based on this GAS curve, with the competition day being at the peak of the supercompensation curve. This is much easier said than done, however. There are many different variables that come into play, such as the intensity, volume, frequency, and density of the athlete's typical training session. Peaking an athlete is equal parts science and art. You, as the coach, not only need to figure out how to stress your athlete appropriately to elicit this supercompensation effect, but you also need to determine the typical time frame for which it takes them to recover and adapt to the stresses that you are imposing on them. Now, how do you do this? It's a very simple answer. Start tracking how far your athletes throw on a daily basis. If your program has some structure, over time you'll start to notice trends in their performances, whether it be when they feel stronger and they throw farther, or they feel worse and less coordinated and don't throw as far. Scheduling your meets when the athlete is feeling good and throwing far, or change the time frame on your training to coincide with important meets so they feel good. For example, when I worked with Rody, I had one workout that I would repeat until sports form was achieved. Yeah, that's right. Like one workout. Like one. That's it. Same number of throws, same implements thrown, same exercises, same weights used over and over and over and over and over again until my body adapted. All the variables that you could possibly control stayed the same, whether it was volume, intensity, frequency, all that stuff. Like I said, this is the truest form of peaking in my opinion, as you are quite literally mapping the body's reaction to the same stimulus over and over again, essentially creating your own GAS curve. For me, the magic number was 22. I'd repeat the same workout 22 times. And on that 20-second session, I'd feel like Superman and set a PR. And then we'd switch to a new program and do it all over again. Unfortunately, that sort of system isn't always feasible. It takes quite a bit of dedication from the athlete and the coach, and the logistics can be hard to manage in a high school or collegiate setting. But that's where having an expert like Rody in my corner paid off. But regardless, like I said, figuring out a reliable peaking system is still very possible. You just need to limit the change in variables that I previously mentioned. Once again, though, it's easier said than done still. Balancing all the variables is no small task. It takes many years of trial and error to find a reliable peaking system. Unfortunately, there's no shortcut there. This is where a good bit of data tracking and scientific method can come in handy. The less variables you change from program to program, the more consistent the reaction will be. In fact, you can actually have the athlete compete their planned peaking cycle in the preseason as a test run and see how long it takes them to recover and adapt and supercompensate. Repeat this over time, tweaking the small variables like training load or recovery work until you've achieved the intended outcome time and time again. And then boom, you found yourself an effective peaking method. 2 important notes though. Like I said earlier, stress is needed to adapt. Peaking cycles that are too easy on the athlete won't exert enough stress on them to cause supercompensation. Yes, they will be recovered come meet day, but they will be lacking the hormonal cascade that comes along with appropriate training stimulus, leaving them feeling flat, just like I did when I would miss my peak at meets. And same goes for a peaking cycle that is too hard. The athlete won't have enough time to recover and adapt and supercompensate before the meet, leaving the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system overactive, leaving the athlete feeling tired and lethargic. Like I said, it's equal parts art and science. You as the coach must find the Goldilocks zone for each athlete. Additionally, it is important to remember that the human body handles stress cumulatively. Whether it's training stimulus or general life stress from work, relationships, school, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, it all adds up. When tracking training, it can be useful to note times of high stress, such as final weeks or maybe somebody had a bad breakup, for it can skew the adaptation curve and training process. So how do I personally peak for competition? For me, I found the easiest variable to manipulate to elicit recovery and supercompensation was volume. So in a similar manner to what Rody had me do, I complete more or less the same throwing and lifting on a daily basis with the same weekly schedule, with the only change being a reduction in volume when I want to recover and peak. So what does this look like? Here you can see the program that I'm currently on, from the specific warm-up to the actual throwing, special strength, and lifting. So I'll perform this program for 3 weeks, throwing and lifting 5 days per week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, once each per day, alternating the A and B lifting sessions. Everything stays the same. I don't switch balls, I don't do extra throws, I don't increase the weights in lifting. Everything is the same. I let my body react how it wants to react. Usually by the end of the first week, I feel pretty shitty and run down, an indicator of the alarm phase. But by the end of week 2, my body starts to turn around and kick into the resistance phase, and things start turning around. I start to feel a little bit better, distances start to improve, stuff like that. Come the 3rd week is when I will start to taper volume to allow my body to recover and supercompensate. Typically, the first day of the 3rd week will stay at full volume, but then days 2 and 3, I'll reduce volume by about 30%. So if I'm doing, let's say, 3 sets of an exercise, I'll do 2 sets instead. And then day 4 and 5, I'll cut volume by about 60% from what it was, but keep intensity the same. By that point, I'm feeling fresh as ever. Technique, coordination, speed, and strength, all of it comes together, and I'll usually end up throwing pretty well. So this has been the same approach that I've been using since the spring of 2013, and it's been quite reliable. Since then, I think I've thrown at least 95% of my PR at every national championship or big meet that I've been to, if not set a new PR. Also, knock on wood there. Hopefully that keep that up. Now, of course, there's a large mental and technical aspect that goes along with performing well at big meets. But honestly, if you feel strong and explosive come meet day, I think those 2 aspects are going to take care of themselves. So yeah, that pretty much gives you a rundown of my typical peaking cycle and how I run my training overall. The way I program these things are individual to myself. Keep that in mind. Like I said, that sort of volume taper over the 4 to 5 days leading up to a meet is what my body needs to recover and feel good. For you or your athletes, it may take longer or shorter, or maybe you need less frequency or more volume. It's very individual. It's really hard to say exactly what you need until you get out there and start experimenting with your own training. But maybe now you understand why I use the air quotes, because I use these concepts I just described in every training program that I complete. That peak is just me letting my body recover and adapt and hopefully supercompensate. If you don't give yourself time to recover from training, you'll never get any better. Often it's not that athletes don't train hard enough, but rather that they don't get enough rest, and then their overall quality of work suffers. I guess what really distinguishes my peaking cycles from my normal training cycles is not the way at which I go about it, but rather in the exercise selection and periodization. This is where the transfer of training concept, largely popularized by Dr. Bondarchuk, comes into play. Basically, when you're trying to peak for your most important competition of the year, you want to choose the implements and exercises that have the greatest positive effect on your throwing performance to be completed in the training cycle leading up to that big meet that you want to throw far at. I guess you could call those exercises and implements your money exercises, if you will. And once again, an athlete's money exercises are individual to the athlete themselves. What works well for one athlete might work terribly for another athlete. So I'm not going to get into the specifics of what my money exercises are, because I don't want to see a whole bunch of kids doing, what I do just because I do it. I want to see kids come up with their own money exercises because that's what they need to get better and throw farther. Beyond that, periodizing your training around your money exercises is an excellent way to take your training to the next level. In the programs leading up to your peaking cycle, think about what exercises could have a positive effect on your performance in your money exercise and do those. For example, maybe your money exercise is a wind and release with a 9K hammer. In the programs leading up, you could just do heavy winds with a 10K hammer, or do hammer finish plate twists in the weight room to strengthen up your core in an effort to improve performance in that wind and release exercise, which would then hopefully transfer more beneficially to your throwing performance in competition. And this could be applied to every exercise in your peaking program. It's just the simple concept of periodization and planning training have its greatest benefit when it counts. I don't know what I'm saying because it's cold as fuck out here now. But once again, don't get caught up in those money exercises. They're just a means to an end, just like the weight room and pretty much anything except for the actual throwing movement itself. Improving performance in a money exercise does not mean that your throwing performance will automatically increase. Especially as time goes on and your performance level improves, your money exercises will change. The only true money exercise is the competitive event itself. But yeah, I guess that kind of wraps everything up. Peaking effectively is really just about learning how long it takes your body to adapt, finding what exercises work best for you, and then using those exercises to stress the body appropriately to create supercompensation at just the right time. If you guys want to talk more extensively about this stuff, hit me up on Instagram or email me at sdonnelly757@gmail.com. And if you're interested in figuring out your own peaking program, I do online coaching and program consulting, so don't be afraid to ask. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Sorry for the lack of video last week. I was feeling pretty burnt out, so I kind of took a incidental deload week, if you will, from making videos. But that being said, I did put some extra tender loving care into this video. So if you enjoyed it and you found value in it, all I ask is that you share it with one other person. That's it, just one person. And make sure to subscribe if you're new here, and share the video for a chance to get shouted out in a future video. Thanks to my boy Luis Rivera for sharing the last video I made. He is a fellow YouTuber and thrower combo just like me, so I'll link his YouTube channel down below in the description. Go check him out, give him some love, tell him I said what's up. And one final note, if you guys are at the Arnold Classic this weekend in Columbus, Ohio, I'll be there Friday to Sunday filming for Earth-Fed Muscle and hanging around the Hate Brand Goods booth when I'm not busy. So don't be afraid to say what's up. Alright guys, peace out. I'm really cold. It is quite frigid out here in California currently where I film outside. I don't know. Peace out guys. See you next week.